Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now.
Hey y'all. So this episode was recorded about a year ago. You'll notice some things mentioned like, wait, that already happened. Like Ayanna is already a mom. She's been a mom to my cutie baby Trinity for over a year now. So just keep that in mind. But also, baby. And during this episode, I think that I wasn't able to share certain things because my mom and I were in a great space. Suffice to say, we've had some ups and downs, and I think I experienced my share of things that maybe my sister have experienced, of course, in a different way. However, them things definitely did happen, and it's unfortunate, but I don't want to paint a picture as if most of the burden was carried by my sister, because that's not true. I just happened to be in a good space, I think, at the time with my mom when I was recording this. And again, my mother is human. She is also a woman who is doing the best that she can as a single immigrant mother, navigating this world solo dolo with 3 children. And so I understand the burden that she had to carry, the weight she had to carry. And you know, with all that said, I am too a woman navigating this world, and it doesn't mean that it's okay, to treat your children as any way in which you feel like it, and for them to forgive you just because you're their parent. I just wanted to add that little tidbit, but please, please, please do enjoy this episode.
Welcome back, y'all, to the Oasis podcast. Thank you all for joining us again for another episode. Today, we are doing our sister to sister episode with my lovely, lovely ladies. So today, I have with me Miss Ayanna to my left and Patty down under. How y'all doing?
Hey.
So today, we smiling now. I don't know if we're going to be smiling by the end of this, y'all.
Right.
So today we are talking about toxic mothers. Okay. Now, this toxic mother episode came about from actually a meme, right? That I believe Ayanna posted on Facebook. And Patty and I have been having tons of conversations, but we'll get to that later. But I saw the meme, and I'm going to read the meme to y'all so that y'all know what I'm talking about, right? But before I even get to that, we usually always hear about our dads, right? Like it's always, my dad wasn't there. My dad was a deadbeat. Oh, he was here, but not really here. He was physically present, but not mentally or emotionally or socially or whatever the case was, right? And so it leads us to believe that who's there to raise us either is our mom. And we never really hear bad things about moms, right? We never really hear like, ooh, she was a deadbeat or anything like that. And I think that's interesting because I think it's either we are not talking about it or it's not happening. And as we got older, I think what really is happening is that we're just not talking about it. That there are moms out there that they not the worst, but definitely not the best. And there's a lot of traits that have been passed down to some moms that are just toxic as fuck to us as women. How we think about ourselves and how we move forward in relationships with other women and how we move in relationships in general. So the meme that Ayanna shared had me go, ooh, and I was like, girl, we got to talk about this. And the meme goes like this. Mother-daughter tension is typically rooted in jealousy and resentment. I said it. Your mother wants you to struggle because she did. And she posted that, and like there was so many comments underneath, like, yes, girl, oh my gosh, we need to talk about this. And I said, Yana, we gotta talk about this. And so here we are.
Absolutely. It's heavy.
It's beyond heavy, hunty. So my lovely Patty here is in the conversation, right? So I believe it might have been that day, or was it the following day? I saw the meme. I told you we need to record. Then we all kind of met with each other, do some introductions, and I was like, ooh, let me throw this idea by y'all. Are y'all with it or not? And y'all decided to record. So I thank you for that. And I think this is absolutely the best topic to have a sister to sister too. Because of course, this is what the sister to sister episode segments are for. It's for us to connect with each other on some real ass shit, right? Like unfiltered, real talk to each other. And I think this topic is absolutely necessary. Now, I just want to make clear, we're not here to bash no mamas. We love our mamas, okay? All right. Some of us more than others. But we do. But yes. it's about being real, because at the end of the day, if we don't speak about, if we don't release these things that we're holding on to, we're just gonna keep passing this shit down, and we don't need none of that, right? We're ending those generational curses. And behaviors are generational curses too. I want people to understand that certain behaviors, how you're talked to, how you're viewed, can be passed down, and we cutting that. We cutting all that. So this is the point of having these conversations. So
absolutely. Amen to that.
Okay. So I wanted to start off the conversation reading just a portion of this article that I sent to you. And I can share the link when I do post this episode. I apologize ahead of time because I cannot pronounce her last name. But the name of the article is The Strained Relationship Between Black Mothers and Their Daughters. Just in that title. And it's like the universe always just works in conjunction, because you post that meme and I swear maybe a few days later, if not that same week, one of my other friends on Facebook who has a daughter posted this article, and I said, ooh, this is perfect. So
yeah, the article was just so relevant and on point and so connected to the meme that I posted. I was like, wow, it was almost as if I could have written the article. That's how much it resonated with me.
So I want to give credit where credit is due. So the author's name is Arah, and I'm her last name I just can't. I'm sorry. It's Lloabugichukwu.
Oh.
So I want to give credit where credit is due. I don't even want to try to butcher your name, sis. I'll add all your info. And so this is the excerpt that I wanted to read, because this literally, you jump right into the article and you're like, ooh, right? I feel this. So she starts off by saying, I know my mother loves me, not because she was the most loving, affectionate mother in the world, or because she was fluent in all 5 love languages, but mainly because I choose to believe that everything my mother did, she did out of love, even the things that didn't feel too much like love. Growing up with my mother had 3 jobs: provide the necessities, keep me from being fast, in quotation marks, and remind me that we weren't friends. And boy, did she do her job so well at times that it felt like being her child was just as much a job as her being my mother. For a while, I thought it was just my childhood experience that left me longing for the dark-skinned Aunt Viv meets Claire Huxtable mother I never had. This secretive, temperamental, unapologetic, tough love expert wasn't just my mom. She was a lot of our moms. Ooh, child. Ooh, that hit me. Right. That hit me. And I don't know how that resonates with y'all, but.
I mean, like I said, I could have written that. I could have written those exact words, because I share that sentiment completely. Like all of it. Like the whole article. Yeah, I agree with and have experienced in my own life. So it definitely resonates. What she is saying is true. Like a lot of times, your mother loves you and you love your mother, but sometimes you're like, do you like me though? Do you like me? Yeah. You loved me, you took care of me, you provided for me, you did everything that you were supposed to do as a parent, but I don't, do you like me? Is the question.
And that's a real one. That is a real one. Patty, what were your thoughts?
She couldn't have said it any better. Sometimes, yes, you know that your mother loves you, but sometimes you wonder if they're your number one enemy at the same time too. Because even in those spaces, while they are trying to protect you from all of those things, there's a bit of stifling going on You're stifling me as a child. You're stifling my personality. You're stifling my growth and my evolution instead of adding to that. And you're doing it in a destructive manner, you know, all while having good intentions. Like there's a quote that says, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And, you know, it could be very hellish growing up as a Black woman with your mother. And she has good intentions, and it's to protect you from what's outside, but they don't know that they're subtly doing damage to you. I'm gonna just like drop the mic and kind of.
It looked like you wanted to say some more, so you know how I love story time, y'all. Let's go. So whoever want to jump in for story time, y'all are free to jump in. But I can, before like anyone wants to kind of give a story, for me, I can't say that the relationship my mom and I had was toxic per se. It was contentious when I was younger though. Like it was very like when we lived together. But I think that is quote unquote typical. Now, the relationship that I feel my mom had with my older sister, now that being a third person looking in, I was sitting there like, like this don't seem like it's supposed to be, because I know the things that my mother would say to my sister, she never said to me, right? Or how she would constantly be like picking her apart, essentially. And to me, growing up, I was kind of feeling but like, why are you saying that? That sounds like something someone who's jealous would say, right? Like, but you're her mother. That's weird. Like, I always, like, even being young, I used to be like, that's so weird. Why would you say that? Like, and it wasn't until I got older, I started going, maybe she is jealous. You know, like maybe she, instead of, and I think it's a human thing, but instead of looking and saying, ooh, I created this, look how amazing she is, look how amazing she looks or whatever, it's like you ain't that cute. You ain't that, you know, it's kind of like trying to chop her down.
Bring them down in size. Yeah. Bring them down in peg. Yeah.
I don't have necessarily quote unquote a story time, but I do remember, you know, a time my sister, you know, she's always been very, you know, shapely, quite the opposite of me. But like, you know, she started getting herself together after she had her boys, you know, she was cute and trim. I'm telling you, she was looking good. You know what I'm saying? She came through to the house, and my mother, you know, looking at her, I think myself and my cousin was like, oh, you know, you look nice, da, da, da. And then my sister like, thanks, this and that, third. And then my mother's like, my mother has this face that she does. She looks at her, she's like, you look good. But she's like, you'll put the weight back on soon. I was just like, wow, she worked hard to get to where she was, right? To feel good about herself. And all my sister did was laugh. And I think at that point, she's probably was so used to it. She was just like, yeah, all right. You know what I mean? But that can't possibly feel good. You know what I mean? To like have
normalize the hate. You normalize the trauma of the experience. It's challenging. And I want to, you know, before jumping into story time, just acknowledging that I had to learn early on that my mother was a human and a person outside of her role of a mother. And, you know, when you're a child, there's a quote, there's an African proverb that says, child's first word of God is mother, meaning that they associate their mother as God. And we do have the rose-colored glasses on for our parents. They are our first homes. They are our first protectors, our first providers. And so whatever love they give us, whether it's healthy or toxic, is the only love we know. And it's the love that we crave. And, you know, even if it hurts, you go back to it because that's the root and that's where you come from. But there comes a time where a child is no longer a child and then has to understand, oh, this person is a person. Outside of them being my parent, they're a person, and I may not like the person. This person is fucked up, you know, this person does some shitty things. And having your mother on a pedestal because she's your first hero and your first home and your first love, your first God and your first everything. And then watching them crumble off of the pedestal in their toxicity is a painful experience, but it's so prevalent in Black mothers and their daughters. There's this period in all the time, you know, they love their sons and raise their daughters. And I don't know what the I could sit here and make assumptions about where the harshness came from between mother and child and mother and daughter more specifically, but it is so toxic, and it really does F up every other relationship you have in your life. And I love my mother, and the best parts of me I get from her. Being her child has not been easy. Being her adult daughter is not easy. She is not an easy woman. And I can definitely relate to your sister, because I call my mother the biggest hater. I say, yo, you like, your job is to hate. Like, that's what she does. If Ann saw this video right now, what she would say is, oh, you think you're cute in that red hair? Oh, well, why you put that red hair on? You think you're cute because you want people to look at you? And I'd be like, yeah, I am cute. Yeah, I am cute. I look like you cute. So we both cute, and I have to kind of transfer some energy back to her, not to take on the insults. But it is jabs. It's microaggression. It's insults. It's picking. It's nitpicking. And I wouldn't say that the root of it is jealousy. I would say that the root of it is insecurity.
I agree.
To switch it, because it's hard to say my mother is jealous of me. It's easier to swallow my mother is insecure. And that I magnify things that make her insecure. And I believe that my mother wants me to win. I believe my mother wants me to succeed, but don't ever think you bigger and better than me. Let me bring you down the side. Let me keep you in your place. Let me humble you right quick. And it's a competition, and I'm not in competition with my mother. I never can be. I am of you. I came from you. I can't compete with you. But it's something in Black women's nature that they see their daughter as a threat, and not as their own, not as a product of them, but as a threat to them. And I've had so many experiences with my mother where I have experienced like, oh, you're my adversary right now. Like, we beefing? Like, we got beef? You mad at me? I did something in the street? Like, what's up? My ex-boyfriend. I can't believe I said my boyfriend. Maybe I'm manifesting my next one.
Your next boo girl. He coming, girl.
Right. That nigga ain't my boyfriend. My ex told me one time. I want to make that clear. I want that to go on record. Keep that in the video. That nigga ain't my boyfriend.
Keep that part.
Don't edit that out. My mother, one time my ex-boyfriend came to me and was like, yo, your mom be talking mad shit about you. And my ex lived in the home with my mother. We lived in the brownstone. So we had an apartment in the basement, and then my mother lived upstairs. And he was like, she be talking mad shit about you. Like, one day she just out of the blue came to me and was like, oh, I'm 70 something and she 30 something and I look better than her. And I was like, I had some choice words for him, and I had some choice thoughts for her. And I said to him, because I believe if somebody can talk shit about me to you,
why they feel so comfortable to do it.
Right. So I was looking at him sideways, like, why she had to say that to you? And then I was looking at my mama like, what is that about? And I had to sit and process it because it hurt my feelings, of course. But then I realized, yo, that's some insecure shit. That's because I ain't do nothing to my mother for her to say anything like that. We didn't have any conflict. It's an insecurity. And I'm learning not to carry people's insecurities in my body and in my mind and in my heart. But it hurts because that's your mama. You can have a hater in the street, but that's your mama. And it's very difficult to deal with when you experience that type of tension.
No, that's an absolute fact. And Patty, I definitely want you to share, but I definitely, in you saying that, I do remember times where, she would say something to my, it was always about my sister's weight. If it wasn't about her weight, it was something about, before she got married and had kids, it was something about, it was her weight, how she dressed, or it was about, before she got married, like I said, had kids, about her finding a man. And so, but it was mainly about her weight. So it was just like, oh, this, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then if my sister would have a rebuttal, my mother would be like, you don't see me, I look good. You know what I'm saying? Like, she'd be like, I be this and I'm that. And it's like, all right, you can look good and she can look good too at the same time. Like, why does one person have to look better than the other? But for me, I was always be a person outside looking in, if that made sense. Like, that was always their dynamic. It was always like, and then they'll be kikiing and then they'll be at each other again. You know what I mean? And it was just like, okay, I'm good. No, it's just like, let me go mind my business. You know what I mean? But that was always their dynamic. Like, it was never just a cool, calm, type of relationship, it was always something. And like, oh, I'm not talking to her right now. It's like, oh, she's not talking to me. And I'm just like, well, like, what am I supposed to do here? But there's definitely that comparison. Definitely that, you can't look better than me. You can't be better than me. Why not? Like, why not? But definitely, Patty, please go on and share.
So let me jump right on in. So we had National Daughters Day at some point last year, like towards the end of the year, right? And I posted up my 2 girls. And needless to say, they look fly. They had this little halo braid and they had the little gold little beads in their hair. They look so cute. And a guy that I was dating at the time, he liked the picture and then he proceeded to jump into my DM and he said, oh, your daughters look better than you, as if to say he was chipping away at my confidence. And I responded back quickly. I said, they're supposed to look better than me. And he's like, yeah, they're your twins. And he tried to clean it up really fast. But in my head, I quickly identified that, yeah, they're supposed to look better than me. And I knew at that point that there was no insecurity in me, because they can already look to me to see what they're going to look like when they hit 30 something years old, if they take care of themselves properly. So while the guy was trying to draw out an insecurity in me, I was letting him know, listen here, sweetheart, I'm already secure in who I am. And I'm raising 2 divas, okay? They're going to look better than me. They're supposed to be smarter than me. They're supposed to be greater than me. They're supposed to do everything better than me. So if at the age of 8, I was reading 10 words per minute, at the age of 8, they should be reading 20 words per minute, because I'm going to make sure that whatever it is that's within me, I'm going to pour into them, and then some, coupled with their own style and how they learn and their own little finesse, and make them the greatest things that they can be. So that was, just a real quick synopsis there. So I laughed, I chuckled, I said, I see you, Satan.
Right, devil get behind me. Right.
Try that. Going back to toxic moms, I'm just going to dive right deep on in there. So I was going through a really bad breakup with my ex, and it got physical. So, there were some legalities in place. I got a restraining order. He decided to get one against me, whatever. So my mother comes and she's like, it doesn't look good, that your ex, he works for the city and he has a reputable position and you have a restraining order against him. What can we do to make this go away? For all intensive purposes and for legal purposes, I will not drop their names or where they work. I will just say that they're city workers. But having a restraining order didn't look good for him, and it was frowned upon where they worked. So she came and drove over to the house, and I sat in her car, and I said to her, I said, Ma, I said, this man put his hands on me, and you're really sitting in this car and you're taking his side, like you're defending him, like how can this restraining order go away? I don't want him in my personal space. And she says to me, well, did you do something to deserve it? And at that point in time, that was the last conversation I had with my mother, because I had been through years and years and years of being the bigger person, of trying to make peace, of trying to bridge the gap between me and her. And I knew at that point that there was no loyalty whatsoever. There is no way my 2 daughters would ever come to me and tell me that they were with a man, living with, cohabitating with a man, and he put his hands on them. I'm not asking them any more questions. I just need to know that man's address. And I'm gonna,
right.
Needless to say, we going ape shit, okay?
Right.
Drop a phone call, because I'm with the shits.
I'm calling Pookie and them. It's going to be about 20 people meeting you outside, and we're going to take care of whooping your ass. You're going to understand that this is not the woman to touch and to put your hands on. Maybe you can try that with someone else, but not this one here. And it was at that point that I knew that our relationship and the dynamic of it would forever be changed. You know, loyalty between mothers and daughters, like that should be something that people cannot interfere with. And when I really looked at the course of my life, my mother has always taken the side of other people over me. And let me just make this very clear. I have two mommies. I have a stepmother and have my birth mother. So the person I'm referencing in this video, she may see it, is my birth mother, but I don't speak to her and I could care less. The whole point is loyalty is a big thing. And when I think about when I had my two children, I sat on the table, no drugs, no epidural, no nothing. I wanted to feel the pain of birthing them. And to sit here and to even fathom someone putting their hands on them, like I could not even think about something like that. So that's my toxic mom story. And I know it's very heavy, and I know you guys probably have a lot to say or probably questions, but I think that's where I draw lines. Like, as a mother, it is your job to protect your child, no matter how young or how old we get. Mothers are still a pivotal force in our lives.
I hear you, and I know there's so much more and it's deeper than that. But, and in regards to, recently I seen a post somebody put up, is a male therapist that he put up in regards to the words loyalty and commitment. And he says that he is committed to his wife, he's not loyal to her. And at first, and I think he did that on purpose, you know, to get one of these. And I'll send you the screenshot. I'll send it both of y'all, because how he broke it down, I said, whoa. And it made perfect sense. If you think about it, it's this, right? I think we kind of sling around loyalty in a sense, but for him, breaking it down, loyalty is kind of like blindly following, if that makes sense. Like, oh, I'm saying I'm loyal to you, so whatever you want to do, let's go, right? As opposed to being committed, and it's a choice you make every day, right? It's a choice, and it's not to say I'm going to only be there for you for the sake of, right? But I'm choosing to be here. I'm choosing to follow you. I'm choosing, if that makes sense. And I think that when it comes to mothering, when it comes to motherhood, I think that there should be, I believe, a steady mix of both, right? But I think what is most important, though, I think there should be a commitment to mothering this child. It shouldn't be a job, like how the author of this article said, right? It shouldn't feel like a job, not for me to be your child, but also for you to mother me, even though it is, right? When it's probably the most underpaid job. But I think it should go a step further, be a commitment to mother you, right? It's a commitment to pour myself the good parts, hopefully, right? But also show you the bad parts so you can learn from. But it should be a commitment to forever growing, forever protecting. Just like what you said, because you don't give birth and then when your child leaves at 18, oh, I'm no longer a mom, right? You're a mother throughout that child's life.
Even after you die. For your life, once you become a mother, you're always a mother. I mean, Patty, thank you for sharing that story. I will say you were a little braver than me, because I didn't even give y'all, I gave you a very baby tip of the iceberg, and you went right on in. I will say this, I have pity for your mother as a woman, because what kind of woman would justify abuse outside of being a mother? What kind of woman, what kind of experience have you had in your life that you can feel so inclined and so easy to justify abuse? And anyway, there is nothing that a woman could do besides putting her hands on somebody first that would warrant a man to put his hands on them. And so I feel sorry for your mother, that is her position in life, that is her understanding, and that she would want to do that to you, to her child. That I think I don't have children yet, and I'm in the process of becoming a mother, and I give God the glory for that. But when I see my children, future children, they are that's products of me. You fuck with them, you fuck with me.
Exactly.
You are tarnishing me. You damage them, you damage me. You deal with them, you deal with me. There, like you said, there could be no way somebody could put their hands on my child, and I'm not taking it to the street. It's gonna be investigation discovery time. Okay? It's gonna be some first 48. And I'm telling you, for real, get the bail money. I'm gonna do it. I'm coming for you. So, what what pity I have for your mother. I am sorry for you to experience that, but I pity your mother because she has to be miserable.
Yeah.
You got to be a miserable ass person to think like that, to operate like that. You have to be so deep in your ugliness and so deep in your misery that is how you would fix your mouth to talk to anybody's child, but more importantly, your own child. Like you don't see yourself in that woman. Like if he hit her, if he hit you, he's hitting her, and she couldn't see herself in you, and that I'm very sad for.
Yeah. I've shared that sentiment with Betty because her and I, we talk a lot, and I've shared that sentiment. Like, you definitely honor your feelings and honor, the experience that you've had. And then for me, I'll be like, and I just say to her, I was like, but I feel bad for your mother. Like, I really do. Like, I feel that she is so wrapped up in her pain and her hurt and whatever that she went through that she just couldn't be there for you. And that's unfortunate, right? It doesn't mean that you have to forgive her, because I'm also very, okay, I'm of the belief that certain people, if they keep showing you that they don't want you in their life, let it go.
There you go. Boundaries.
As long as you feel that you really gave it a try, I think the people that you should give a little more to is your parent. But they can get cut off too. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Because if you're draining me, you're taking away from me, you're constantly degrading me, you're constantly making me feel as if I'm nothing, I don't need that in my life to move forward. But I do think that, just like what you said, Ayanna, it wasn't until I got, I think into undergrad, that I really sat down and saw my parents as people. You know what I mean? Like that, oh man, like they're human beings. And that made me just view them differently. And I kind of let go of some of like just the anger and stuff I have for them. But it wasn't until a few years later, into that mid-20s, that I saw my mother as a woman, if that made sense. Like, ooh, you did some shit when we were growing up, sis. Okay.
See, I'm glad you touched on that. I'm glad you went, because there was a part in the article that stood out to me. I mean, like I said, I could have wrote the article myself because it was so relevant to my life. But a line in there, and I'm paraphrasing, where she was like, I don't know my mother. I don't know who my mother is, because, Black mothers don't share their personal life. And I talk to my best friend, Teresa, all the time about this. I know Anne from May 22nd, 1987. That is my birthday. I have no idea of who she was as a person before she was my mother. She may tell me little tidbits of childhood, and she may tell me this or that. And really, it doesn't even start at childhood. It started at like college, where she was like, oh, I used to get fucked up in college, like those type of old time stories. But who Anne was before she became my mother, I have no idea. Who she was when she mothered my older siblings, I don't even know the story of that. My mother was married before she met my father, had my eldest brother from her, Amadou, with his father, and then had my older brother, Anthony, and then me. I don't even know what their family life was like before I entered the picture. I can only make assumptions based on trying to piece things together, but not knowing who these people are before they become our parents leaves a lot to be desired, because you feel like you don't know yourself, because you don't know your mama outside of the role, outside of the job that she played of being your mother. And so I can't relate to you. Like, I can't come to you as a person. Like, I feel like she doesn't know me as a woman. She knows me as her daughter. So I can't come to you as a woman, 33 years old, and say, hey, I'm going through this, I'm navigating this is challenging, because I don't know you as a person. I know you as my mom. And so it's a disconnect, because it's like guarded. I in 2013, I was pregnant and I had a miscarriage, May of 2013. Pregnant, had a miscarriage, and my then boyfriend was less than supportive, we'll say that, and that's me being very nice in the situation. And I basically went through the miscarriage by myself. Literally, how it happened was I found out I was pregnant like 3 weeks before, and then started to have some complications, and he drove me to Methodist Hospital, pulled up to the emergency room door, looked to his right, you want me to come in with you? And I was like, nigga, if you got the axe, fuck you. So I just got out the car, went in the hospital, did what I had to do. had a miscarriage, and I think I took a cab home. I don't even think anybody picked me up from the hospital. Got home and I went upstairs and my mother is in the kitchen and I am fuming. I'm pissed. I'm at 1,000. I'm hurt. I'm emotional. There's hormones involved, all of those things happening in that moment. And I'm not very vulnerable with my mother because I don't trust her with my feelings. But in that moment, I was raw, and I needed a woman to understand that I was a woman who was hurting and mourning the loss of her child. And so I think I like broke down at the dinner table and I was like, I'm so fucking pissed. I'm mad. I want to break something. I want to hurt. I'm mad at everybody. I'm mad at the world. And my mother turned and was like, well, what are you mad about? And I was like, oh, he just left me at the hospital. I was at that time, my anger was directed at my then boyfriend, and fuck him. And I'll never forgive him. And she was like, oh, you'll get over it. He was just being a man and you'll get over it. You be right there under him. And what you mad about? It happens to people. It happens. I had a miscarriage before I had you. I was 8 months pregnant. It happens. What are you mad about? And that was it. And she went back to cooking. And I sucked up the tears because I realized, whoa, we were too vulnerable here. You already know this is a danger zone. You already know she will not hold you in a space of comfort. And the resentment I felt was just, it was palpable. I hated everybody. I was mad at everybody. And walked around for like 6 months in a funk, in a suicide fog, in a depression, and then came back again because you always want to try, like you said, you always want to give just a little bit for your mama. You always want to keep trying because that's your mama. Came back 6 or 7 months later and was like, I'm not okay. And I think I need therapy, but I want you to do it with me. I think there are things that I need to say to you that I would like to say in therapy. And I got met with, I don't need no therapy. If you feel like you need therapy, you need to go ahead and do therapy, but I don't need no therapy. I'm not doing that. And I was like, okay, so we're just not going to try anymore. We're good. I'm going to meet you where you're at. I realized that I'm going to meet you where you're at. And it does irreparable damage to you in how you operate with other folks.
Yes.
In how you are not able to advocate for yourself because you can't advocate for yourself with your own parent. In how you can't trust other people to be there for you because your own parent isn't there for you.
Talk up, girl.
In how you are afraid of conflict because you're afraid to confront the main person in your life, which is your parent. And these are things I'm speaking from personal. I'm speaking from my way. So I have difficulties telling people how I feel about themselves or how I feel about what they've done because I can't tell my mama how I feel about what she's done. Or I haven't been able to express myself. I don't trust anybody to really care for me and be dependable on. Because if you can't depend on your mama, who can you depend on? And so that toxicity just spreads and permeates every other area in your life. Because your mother is your first. She's your first everything. Your first love, your first home.
Yes.
Your first everything. And when your first foundation is so flawed and cracked, it really fucks up everything outside of that.
I just want to jump in right there.
Go ahead.
For the longest while, I used to have this narrative that I was speaking to myself. I was like, I don't like women. I can't deal with women. They're complicated. They're emotional. They're catty. They're not supportive. It's always a competition. I don't like hanging out with women. I'd rather hang out with men. And I had to realize that narrative came from my mother because I didn't have a good relationship with her. I wanted to talk with her. I wanted to bond with her. I wanted to be her at some point in time. And there was just a large disconnect. And I couldn't get through. And I think what also contributed to that too was I look just like my father. Like I've shown AJ pictures of my father. Like
twins,
I have
literally.
Face, his nose. Like my mother literally just held the bag, which was me. I look just like him with hair and with breasts. And I think because they didn't work out, there was an underlining
the root. There it goes.
So that's a whole episode in itself.
Yeah, so every time she looked at me, it was a constant reminder of, oh, this man don't want you. He don't want to be with you. He cheated on you. He did all this stuff. He went back to his high school sweetheart. And she never had I guess, that time and that space to really express to him what she was feeling. So the easy target was me. Mm-hmm. So I got oh, why you look like you don't belong anywhere? You need to comb your hair. It was never in a space of positivity and constructive feedback. It was always negative. It was always what I didn't do right. It was always what was wrong. And going through this from elementary school all the way up until, I started living with my father in 5th grade, like, that's the first 10 years of a child's life that you have literally damaged them. So yeah, like, it wasn't until I literally had to do a lot of work in therapy and trying to see my mother as a person, as you were alluding to, because I'm telling you, for the longest while, I hated her. I hated her guts. I was like, if she died tomorrow, I wouldn't go to the funeral. Like, the hate was real because of all the 30 plus years of damage that was done. And it wasn't until that I resolved that I wanted to be a better woman and I wanted to be a better mother to my girls. And I didn't want to continue that narrative, that I was able to meet both of you lovely ladies and be in a space where I could receive you, because I was no longer holding on to all of that old stuff. And also too, I learned something, not from my mother, speaking of stories, I learned from my aunt that my mother and my grandmother, they didn't have a good relationship. So every time my mother went to open her mouth, my grandmother, right in the mouth, just slap her right in the mouth. So there was
a cycle.
Yeah, so there was no positive relationship there. Yes. So at the same time, how can people give you something that they don't have?
Right.
But again, like, thank God for therapy, and thank God for Black girls who do go to therapy and see therapists, because I was able to work through all of those issues and to see my mother as a person, as a woman, and not as the damage that she had done to me.
Right. And it's okay if you don't like the person your mother is. It's quite all right.
Right.
That too.
That's a PSA.
That's a fact.
Okay.
No, that is 100% true. And you Patty, you jumped right in, because the next question was to be, where do we think this came from? Because it didn't come out of nowhere, right? I doubt your mother, either one of our moms, right, or whoever's moms out there is carrying this child like, yeah, I'm gonna hate this kid, or I'm gonna make this child's life miserable. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's what is in their minds, for real. Grace said, whether they're happy with the pregnancy or not, because we don't assume that everyone's happy to be pregnant or to be a mom. We just make that also very clear. They have the right. They chose to do what they did and not do, and that's on them, and we're not talking about that. But I doubt anyone really has this intention of like, oh, I'm gonna keep this child and make it miserable. You know what I'm saying? But it's the why, and you really hit it on the head, because a lot of times it's because they didn't experience it from their own mothers, and they're using their experiences, whether it was with their mothers or whatever other females that they had, and now they're pushing those feelings onto you, because you really can't do anything, if that makes sense. You are defenseless. You're a kid, like, you ain't gonna, until we get a little older, some of us probably try to fight our mothers, and maybe our mothers try to fight us, who knows? Because I've heard those stories. So you couldn't do anything for the most part, so they can do these things, and it makes them feel better about themselves. It's fucked up, but it made them feel better. They went up a notch whenever they made you feel smaller. So that's the reality of the situation. It's unfortunate, but that's why I think this conversation is even more important.
I hope you guys enjoyed that first part of Sister to Sister, Toxic Mothers, part 1. And I hope you tune in for the next part. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts or iTunes and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or have show ideas, contact us at ajsoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJOASIS JAYSOASIS@gmail.com, or direct message us on Instagram or Facebook.